Hello everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to the 7th edition of our Developer Office Hours. As usual, I'm always happy to have you here. So today, I don't know how many of you have been around the Cardano ecosystem, but if you have been there for a while, you probably have come across with these guys from the Anvil agency. So they always have been involved in building things into the ecosystem. So today you're joined by Cash, who is the CEO of Anvil, and also Patrick, who is the COO, for a look behind the scene at what the team has been building and how they are working to connect blockchain technology with real world applications. So without further ado, Cash, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. So hi, everybody. My name's Cash, CEO of Anvil Development Agency. First and foremost, I just wanted to say thanks to CF for having us. And, from there, I'll just jump right in. Kind of wanted to give an intro to who we are for the people who might not know and how we kind of got started on Cardano. So about 5 years ago, we started Anvil informally, and we saw a very big need for developers in the space. To get anything done, you really had to know somebody, right? You had to have a friend or somebody like, for those who remember, Fence Maker or an Adam Dean in your pocket to kind of get stuff done. And, from there, we actually had our CTO join the team. He had a degree in cryptography, so he was a perfect fit for us. And we actually had two other founders who are no longer here, but from that starting five, we basically built out a lot of the tooling that was used for the 2022 and 2021, market and beyond, right? First, we started with minting, something very basic that kind of everybody was really into. NFTs, were huge back then. And we minted about 500,000 assets in our career so far. We've serviced several mints and projects. We've built staking platforms, custom applications for people, a whole list of stuff, right? And then my first share that I have for you guys is the tool that we built originally to do that, right? It's our CMS. So this is what we built to kind of service. You can see here 229 different clients. It's a whole range of clients from minting, staking, and all kinds of stuff. A lot of names that should look familiar. We basically came in, we had the ability to make them a custom website, and then we had the ability to help them get their mint live for the people who are less technical savvy, right? So our whole goal was to make Cardano easy for people. And I think we did that pretty well, and we still do. So from there, I'd like to have PV jump in and talk about the team a little bit and kind of what we've been able to accomplish and who we are.
Yeah, so we've been building this team for the better part of 5 years, like Cash has said. It's a group of very creative, hungry developers and engineers who have minds that love to solve problems. So we've been able to, what's he saying? There you go. Sorry, I get distracted. But with our team, we've been able to really apply the minds to various different problems across Cardano and really start to think about things differently. Like, how can we take the tools, the blockchain that is available, and apply it to a client in a way that allows us to solve their business needs and business problems. So we've got 3 in Canada. We have a design team that we work with pseudo full-time, and then we have 3 in the United States that are all full-time. So we've got a great core set of folks who have a variety of different skill sets and backgrounds, all dedicated 100% to Anvil to work on these Cardano projects and help build out this ecosystem with us. So a good core group of people we've worked with for a while, who all know the ecosystem well, who we've kind of brought up through Cardano, and not only just the Cardano side of things, but really worked on from the business side of things as well, taking that approach of not everything's, blockchain or crypto project. Sometimes blockchain takes a back seat to the business needs and is in the background. Our devs are very good with that kind of stuff. So, I don't know if there's anything else you were looking for there.
Nah, that's perfect, man. And, from there, I kind of like to just dive into what we built, right? So through a lot of funding programs, through a lot of our own, sweat equity and things like that, we've been able to build a pretty cool suite of products. Our first and most popular would be Weld, right? It's an open source wallet connector. And it was inspired by Solana, actually, unironically. We thought that they had a really good system for their wallets where basically one protocol kind of everybody merged their repositories into that, and then they were able to basically just download one tool and have all the wallets at once. So we actually support all the wallets, even the unverified Cardano wallets, through Weld, and it's a widely used tool in the ecosystem, and it was funded in Catalyst round 11 actually. So we're very proud of that, and we're very happy that it's continued to be used. Additionally, back in the 2020s, we made MetaDraft, which was a metadata platform to help people kind of who didn't have the experience that we had build out metadata for their projects, primarily around NFTs, but now it's being catered to RWAs as well. From there, we built our API, our Anvil API, which serves over 200 clients right now. We do about 1,500 to 2,000 transactions without WayUp a month. So it's pretty widely used and adopted. We built that all on our own, right? There was no funding involved in that. We saw a need to make Cardano easy, right? That's why that it's been our core philosophy for a long time, basically making Cardano simple for people who just want to come in and build, right? And then through the last Catalyst funding round, we got funded for Hodei Wallet, which is our semi-custodial wallet that actually fits kind of into the whole bridging Web 2 and Web 3, where you use your phone as the authorization for everything, right? So it's actually an app on Apple and Android, and it's a SIP30 wallet. So it's really cool. It's almost turns your phone into a ledger. It's one of my favorite things that we built, and it's going to be widely used across the products that we build for other people. Beyond that, right, we have our Anvil API examples, things like that are just basically meant to help people who don't have any experience come in and have something to start off of and not really have to like go through a bunch of different, Google searches and ask a bunch of people. It's really meant to streamline the entire process.
The API is a really good example. It's all of our knowledge compressed into one website effectively, where it's years and years of experience and all of the different problems, complexities that we've faced across different projects, things that we've needed to build out because we saw recurring issues again and again. So all the functions in here are things that we have seen actual use and utility from. There are smart contracts in here that we've built out for folks, like our tournament builder or the WayUp endpoints are in here. So there's various different smart contracts that all act in the same kind of way. So the idea was kind of a standardized, simple interface where people can just really easily utilize JavaScript calls and non-specified or non-specific dev skill sets to build out their ideas in ways that is going to work, which is important.
Well said. And yeah, like you can see on the screen right now, this is our API documentation. It pretty much covers everything we've ever built on Cardano. We kind of stuffed it all in here to try and make it really easy for people. Its primary use right now is a transaction builder, but it's also capable of doing so much more than that, right? And we do believe that it's one of the best transaction building tools on Cardano. We've taken a lot of time to master the art because we've needed it for so many different things, right? So transaction building is a big part of this. And then we have, all the things that we kind of talked about before, metadata, native assets, which to us is one of the biggest value props of Cardano in general, is having actual native assets instead of smart contract references to assets. I think that's a really powerful part of Cardano that won't be overlooked forever. Beyond that, we have delegation tools. We have smart contract blueprinting tools for Aiken, all kinds of cool stuff in here. I would implore anybody that's looking to build to check it out. We also have our marketplace functionalities, which I'll get into a little bit later. We run WayUp, which is the top Cardano marketplace for native assets. And then, like PB said, we have our tournament builder and a lot of other really cool things in here. So it's loaded with stuff, and we're really proud of it. So beyond that, we also worked recently on a project called sellout.io. Many of you guys who know us know that we had a treasury proposal in, and thanks to CF for voting yes on that. Even though it didn't pass, we're very grateful for the support and just the general understanding that CF has shown when it comes to building products outside of Cardano, right? I think we heavily align with a lot of the philosophies involved with that. Sellout.io is a ticketing platform in the United States. They sell over 250,000 tickets per year, and they have over 200,000 registered clients. We built them an entire Cardano backend for their ticketing system, where every single ticket minted is a native asset, SIP68 asset on Cardano. That was phase one. And what we were looking to do through phase two, through the Treasury funding, was to build out the marketplace around that so that people could exchange tickets, enforce royalties, do all those types of things that make it a legit platform and that could compete on the global stage, right? Unfortunately, it wasn't funded, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. We're still working with them, trying to figure out ways to make it happen. So I'm really excited for that one and hopeful that we can bring it to Cardano in a bigger fashion than it currently is. But it will be a very powerful tool when it's done. From there, I kind of want to jump into what our current focus is, because obviously, you know, I talked a lot about NFT minting and staking platforms and things like that. And we all know that the space is kind of progressing to a little bit different stuff. So I kind of want to dive into like what we're building in terms of custom dApps. Like I just talked about sellout, but we're really trying to focus on real world adoption, right? And building tools that regular people can understand and use. I always joke and say it needs to be so easy that my mom can use it. And I mean, she's usually our guinea pig. So it's a really good philosophy to stand behind. But tools like Hodday that we've built and just our API in general and using Aiken smart contracts are kind of our way of Trojan horsing Cardano into the greater, you know, space, Web 2, we call it, right? Real life in reality. But again, a lot of our tools that we're building for clients, they have a large focus on hiding blockchain, right? And we see that as the next natural progression where, you know, you don't see currency on there. You don't really have to pick a wallet or anything like that. We built a really cool tool with a company that was partnered with CF for a little while called Merchandise. For the 2024 Cardano Summit, we built a demo for them where basically you scan a QR code on a shirt and then it makes you a custodial wallet on the spot, right? And then you hit redeem your reward, and that mints an NFT to that custodial wallet. Later on, if the person wants to deep dive into Cardano and figure it out, we had an export wallet button, right? So you could easily move your wallet from being a custodial wallet to a self-owned wallet where you manage it yourself. Beyond that, we're working with a lot of Web 2 companies right now and just trying to figure out ways to make blockchain relevant to them. You know, we're building relationships outside of our ecosystem and trying to help people understand that that blockchain doesn't have to be the star of the show. You know what I mean? It's really good as infrastructure, and the Cardano ledger is extremely trustworthy and powerful, right? PB, do you want to talk a little bit of that? Because I feel like you do a great job explaining it.
Which, the Web 2 part or kind of?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've historically have had a lot of really good relationships with outside clients. I've spent my entire career in Web 2 on direct to consumer and e-commerce side of things. And with that, I think, you know, over the past year and a half, we've noticed that as the space slows down, there is a need for us to survive and for us to service clients that weren't necessarily directly aligned with like a Web 3 philosophy. And we realized pretty quickly, it turns out that those aligned with the Web 2 philosophy have the staying power and the ability to pay the bills and are the right type of client to focus on. So not only do we have, I think, good experience now working with that type of client and understanding like the needs of just a normal business operator, but are also able to then kind of conceptualize and work into it our API in ways that make sense for the project. So it's taking the more traditional approach, which then opens us up to be more relevant to a lot more businesses and solving real world needs, but then always thinking about what do we do or how could we bring a spreadsheet in motion that is blockchain to this business ledger to improve their process in some way. Really good example of that is working with, we've got an industrial partner, Blom, that's a coatings manufacturer. So it's an industrial coatings manufacturer where we've built a Web 2 product for them. But the Web 3 opportunity is there, being that they've got so many different applications for it, from a QA process standpoint to an inventory supply chain tracking standpoint. All these things that we've already or have been talking about for 5-6 years now on Cardano, about how Cardano can actually revolutionize these aspects of a business. We have those clients now, and we have the ability to start to plan out and think about how we're going to do what we said and revolutionize their business with blockchain and public ledgers. So it's a pretty cool opportunity and nice to be able to focus on instead of chasing these kind of Web 3, we're developing this rhythm and drumbeat that lets us go get consistent work outside the space and still accomplish our goals and objectives using our API. So it's a nice flow, and it's been it's not where we started. It's been an evolution getting to that point and kind of getting the flow down and learning who to work with and who's a high value target versus not. But we're here now, and I think it's nice to see we've got a good plan going into the next couple of clients, next year here or so to integrate blockchain to them. So
absolutely. And I think like you emphasized it really well, the ability to be able to pivot, right? When we see something not working, has been one of our real strong suits. There's been a lot of teams that they stick with one thing and when it doesn't work out, they fizzle out. And we've kind of pivoted over and over again to, I wouldn't say meta chasing, because we never did a token sale. We never really did any of those types of things, but we've always tried to stay with the relevant stuff while also thinking deep into the future, which kind of leads me to my next point, which is what we're focused on as well, is compliance, right? A lot of these companies that are coming into blockchain, especially Cardano, they're looking for that pre-existing compliance layer, right? One of the things we focused on this year is becoming SOC 2 compliant in a multitude of other ISO certifications, right? But we're very focused on being a strong legal entity that people can rely on to understand, like, we're here for the long run, and we built our foundation of our company to exist through any times and not be, be able to withstand a basic audit, right? Which is something I don't think a lot of people in the space can truly say. Compliance goes through many different loopholes and things like that, but it ultimately leads to WayUp, right? Which is our main platform and kind of what our next step is. WayUp is the top NFT marketplace on Cardano, right? Our focus is not making it just an NFT marketplace. Although our WAs are NFTs, like, let's not kid ourselves, right? People just hate the word NFT. So it's a digital asset marketplace, right? That's what we're calling it now. And WayUp, we want it to be very compliant with, regulatory rules. So one of the things that we're focusing on right now is we have a proposal in through this round of the Catalyst pilot to add SIP 113 functionality, which I know a lot of you guys are probably well aware of what that is. But to us, we, through our research, we see it as a really, really strong offering and something that we can easily cater to, right? For us, we've added SIP 25, we've added SIP 68, we've added different rules. So for it's really not that big of a step for us to add an implementation like this. And it makes sense, right? Having programmable tokens where you can enforce, regulatory compliance, and you can actually freeze assets and do things like that. That's what RWA providers are going to want, right? It's a fact. And that's what a lot of our chains eat our lunch with, right? You see these big platforms ETH right now is almost at $400 million in RWA assets, right? Cardano, we're not even really close to that. So one of our goals is to emphasize Cardano isn't just a good place to build RWAs. It is the place, right? You have an actual native asset that you own. There's no smart contract reference. There's no scripts, anything like that. It's truly a different experience and fundamentally way stronger. That's what we think, at least. So one of the things I wanted to kind of show you guys was our back office, because it's heavily related to WayUp, right? And this is something that probably nobody's ever seen before outside of our company. It's very proprietary, but it's nothing secret. A lot of this stuff can be found on chain if you really want to, go through the the effort of finding it, right? So, you can see kind of like basically how we treat our products. We kind of build a dashboard for it. We have all of our stats right here: fee transactions, active profiles, inventory, 17,500 NFTs right now listed on WayUp. And then 2,000 or so that are still left over from JPEG that we actually aggregated. We've built some really cool stuff on WayUp. It's truly a great platform. You can see our revenue right here. It's had a large spike this year, largely in part due to JPEG Store going out of business. You can see kind of our revenue chart. You can see exactly where it picks up around April when they left. And then you can see some of our spikes in fees from when EarthNode sold, which we're very happy for, very proud of. PB?
Something you don't see in this that I think is pretty cool to think about is the amount of interactions that we as a team have with people because of this. Like 17,000 listings is a lot of listings. Not everything goes smoothly every single time. There's customer service interactions. There's projects that have questions, things like that. we have a relationship with all of these projects because we have conversations with them in our server. We have conversations with the founder of the project directly. We dialogue back and forth. We try and be available for people to come in and do stuff right away when they're in WayUp to service the project appropriately. So it's just something that often isn't surfaced or seen. You see it kind of starting to see these numbers like back here. We've got traffic, we've got volume, we've got projects that use this. And Anvil as a team is in a unique position that we have direct lines and relationships with all of these people. We know them personally.
Yep, exactly. And thanks for the clarification on the SIP 113 stuff. But like you said, the underlying asset is native. So giving it through a contract that gives it the ability to be frozen, right? And that's kind of one of the main things that we're focusing on is compliance, right? Like I said, so having SIP 113 as part of WayUp it's again just such a simple, natural progression. You can see our revenue here. You can kind of see some of the activity flow over the last 90 days of people listing and the offers and things like that. Every offer is a revenue transaction for Cardano. Every listing is a revenue transaction for Cardano, right? Every sale is a revenue transaction for Cardano. That all funds the treasury, right? So we're very proud to be contributing back to that. Site visits, as you can see, we've done pretty well. We have about 350K in the last 90 days. We have about 416,000 sessions, and we average about 3,000 new visitors a day, 320 over the last 90 days. We have a little view of our top collections and things like that, our traffic, and this is all pulled directly through Google Analytics, right? And then I'll jump real quick over to the actual platform itself, WayUp, right? So this is the marketplace itself. We're going to work on a little bit of a facelift just to make it more accommodating for RWAs, trying to add a little bit more of a professional touch to it. You can see we do offer a lot of stuff like free trading, right? So this was one of the original collections that we had, and we decided to give, if you own 5 of them, you get free trading on the platform, right? But you can see it'll be catered to everything, right? And we're already seeing a little bit of RWA traffic on it because, like I said, they are NFTs at the end of the day, right? So we do see a little bit of that with the Earth nodes and things like that. Some of the finest stuff has been traded on here a few times. But yeah, we're very proud of the platform that we built. You have collection pages, you have the top collections, all the stuff that people want to see on here. You can, once you're logged in, you can add your favorites and all the things like that. Additionally, I wanted to show you guys a little bit about our API, right? Like I said, we have quite a few signups on here, right? 175 orgs building on it right now. Whole list of clients that use this every day. And then you can see kind of we have a KPI dashboard that we built for CBDAO primarily because we were funded through that for a little bit of our compliance stuff, but also building out our API to be more robust and compliant, right? So here's where you can see kind of how our API powers everything, right? You can see right here, WayUp is using the Anvil API. I mean, shake our own hand a little bit, but it is what it is. It's a powerful tool, so why would we not use it? You can see in the last 90 days, we've done it'll load in a second, done quite a few transactions though. Our goals that we had set out for the 6-month period was around 2,500 transactions, 1,500 transactions a month. And we're at 20,000 in 3 months. So pretty proud of that, right? And then additionally, you can see kind of an overview of the transactions. In the last 7 days, we've had 1,500 transactions, right? So we're beating our monthly goal by a 4x right now. And then on top of that, the revenue, you can see over the last 90 days, it picked up really a lot when we put WayUp on it, but we've had 21,000 ADA revenue over the last 90 days. Over the last 30 days, about 5.2K. You can see all the kind of the stuff that we're working on here, a little bit of the geographical locations. That's one of the coolest things about WayUp is the global usage of it, in my opinion. There's we get a lot of users from a lot of different really cool places. So it's kind of super fun to look at. We're not going to token 2049, unfortunately. Yeah, for a multitude of reasons, but not because we don't want to. I'll put it that way. Moving on a little bit, right? Just because I want to leave time for questions at the end. Like I said, talked about SIP 113. One of the things that we also think is going to be a really big contributor here in the future is USDCX. and integrating that into all of our platforms and our API, right? We've talked with the Draper team pretty closely about what their projects need and what their clients need. So kind of really on the top of our radar right now. We see it as a huge feature that's going to bring a lot of liquidity to Cardano, not just liquidity, but easiness, like kind of ease of use. We talked with them about a couple different platforms that are going to need it to be able to make the transfer to Cardano. So for us, it's a natural integration and something that we're going to focus highly on for the rest of this year. Additionally, beyond that, we're going to keep pushing to, extend support for WayUp beyond just Cardano. I really think that, multi-chain, I've seen CF do a lot of stuff recently that's really been kind of inspiring, that, that not multi-chain, but cross-chain functionality, right? We think that's extremely important to bridge communities together. So it's something that we're going to be focusing on in the near future. And I'm really excited for it because it makes that USDC and USDCX bridge even more relevant, right? And then beyond that, like I said earlier, adding focus of RWAs to WayUp, right? That's going to be one of our big goals of the year. You guys have seen the Pokemon card frenzy. You've seen the frenzy of all these different digitalized assets. We want to be able to capture on that volume, right? It makes total sense to have a digital twin in a lot of these cases. And Pokemon cards it's a 4 million TAM right now. It's a huge addressable market. And no, I don't have many Pokemon cards. The ones that I have are in my closet, and they're going to stay there for till the 40th anniversary. I want them to be, these are our Babe Ruth cards and our famous athlete cards of our generation. So I'm going to keep them safe in there. But again, we've had a lot of really cool ideas kind of related to WayUp. And kind of what I was talking about. I'll show you guys, this is very much in conception stage, but we built kind of a sister platform to WayUp called TradeUp, right? Where we wanted to focus on digital collectibles really hard, right? So stuff like Pokemon cards, watches, anything that can be authenticated in a store, we want to be able to have listed on this platform, right? And I won't go too deep into details because I can't spill our secret sauce, but we have a plan for this that I think will really take off. And it involves something that I don't think anybody's truly thinking about. And it's Web 2 related, right? We want to include businesses. That I think it's something that a lot of people just, let's build this platform. People will come digitalize their assets. What's the motivation behind that, right? Why? You have to answer the why there. And the why for us is including everybody, including the blockchain because it has the ledger that we want and the programmable assets that we want, including the shop owners because it kind of gives them an opportunity to expand their portfolio, right? And then giving something for the collectors to keep them busy, collectors and scalpers and traders and everybody, right? And yeah, we've already thought a lot about grading the cards. We've thought a lot about how it's going to work relationship-wise. We have a very thorough plan around this. We're currently in a stage where we're somewhat we're working on an investment for it. So it could be a really cool platform. And thanks to WayUp, we're able to do things like this. You know what I mean? It's the experience that we've gotten over the last 5 years has led us to this level of product and understanding of the markets and things like that. And we don't want to keep chasing the tail of the dragon either, right? We want to build something that can actually last for, 10 years, even longer, hopefully, right? Just like Cardano, right? So that's one of the cool things that we're working on right now, which I'm very excited for. And then, like I said earlier, we have Sellout, which I think phase 2 will be really, really strong. It kind of, let me pull this up real quick. The site is called Fixed Ticketing. I can actually add this to the chat so you guys can look at it on your own time as well. But it's something that it's basically outlining our proposal, but it goes into a lot of the details of why it's super relevant, right? Why it's important and what problems it fixed. Ticket ownership currently isn't real, right? You don't actually own anything. Maybe if you have a physical ticket, you own it, but then it's worthless after that interaction with the venue, right? Fraud is huge in the ticket space, right? Scalpers, all these different things. The lack of royalties, right? So having SIP 113 assets on that is actually super important. Like, it wasn't something that we were really aware of when we first built our proposal, but if we knew about it as much as we do now, it would have definitely been a part of this, because it fixes the problem that we had, which were royalties aren't enforceable at the ledger level on Cardano, right? It's a huge problem, and nobody's going to go back and fix that, right? I don't think, at least. I've tried to get that done for 5 years. I don't think it's going to happen. So for us, SIP 113 is a perfect way for us to kind of circumvent having the ledger level royalties and being able to enforce them through that smart contract, like we talked about. So I think it's a really good opportunity still, and it just makes so much sense. It's one of those that's just like, it just makes too much sense to not do it. So we're really pushing hard on that one. Blom, I know that PB talked about that one a little bit. We have a couple things that we're working on with them. Like he said earlier, we've built them a fully customized quoting platform. They're literally a paint company. They sell industrial paint. They paint floors, walls of factories, warehouses, all types of things, right? They're a great company. They do a lot of regular everyday work, hard work, and they make a lot of money. And they were doing all of their quotes on Excel spreadsheets. And each person did a different quote. They had different styles, and there was no uniformity. So we actually built them a full quoting tool. And through that relationship, we've now been able to introduce them to blockchain, right? We've been able to kind of express what blockchain could do for their company. I know PB went through a lot of the examples earlier, but building that layer of trust is super important, right? Without that layer of trust, you're just basically asking for them to blindly trust that blockchain is actually going to do something for them. So for us, that's always been paramount, is building a good relationship with the people that we work with that aren't in Web3, right? It's a Trojan horse effort, and it always will be. I truly do believe that. So from there, what's next, right? Focusing on real world adoption. We've talked a lot about that. Obfuscating crypto and blockchain from all of our products, right? One of the things that, you'll see on TradeUp, I know there's a little USDCX symbol there, but we're going to get rid of all that. You'll sign in with a regular Google auth, a passkey, whatever you want to sign in with. It does not have to be a wallet, right? And what we'll do is we'll actually create a custodial wallet for that person. So again, going back to what I said earlier, making it so easy that my mom can use it. My mom is not going to write down a seed phrase, right? I think anybody's parents in here not going to write down a seed phrase. They don't. As soon as you have to do that, you lost the person, in my opinion. I've seen it I've seen it every time I've tried to introduce somebody. Rarely do people get into it. I'll never forget NFT Las Vegas 2022. We were in the cab. PB was there. Our whole team was there, and we were trying to get the guy. We were trying to onboard the driver on the Cardano, and he was like, "Whoa, what is all this? Like, I need a seed phrase and blah." And we did the whole thing for him right there. We set him up a wallet. We sent him NFTs. We did all the cool stuff from our phones and all that. And again, thankfully, it was a 20-minute drive, or we wouldn't have had time to do it. But yeah, that's a good point as well. Taxes and compliance is a huge part of it, right? That's one of the things that we really like about, WayUp, is we can focus on adding that kind of tooling for people to be able to kind of export all their transactions and things like that. And the guy's definitely not rich now, but he does have an ADA handle. So there's that, right? Which is, I mean, that for a lot of us is rich. I know I love mine more than anything in the world. So much I got it tattooed. But anyways, seamless bridges are really important for us. And again, just having a really coherent UI UX for people to use. It's been something that we focused on forever, right? All of our tools, everything we've ever done, all the way back from the CMS that I showed you guys at the beginning, we've tried to make crypto and blockchain super easy for people. And we're going to stick to that because I think it's a really important thing. Beyond that, building, like I talked about a lot of this stuff already, but building trust with clients. I'm just going through my agenda real quick, but building trust with clients, super important. Trojan horsing crypto and continuing to make Cardano the back end for our products. And then for Catalyst, like I said, we have a proposal in right now to add SIP 113 functionality to WayUp. And I think it's a huge step for the platform. With that, plus a little bit of UI UX is going to make it a really cool place to trade assets on Cardano. And I think a lot of people are starting to understand that RWAs are going to be part of the big, whatever we want to call it, meta of the next bull run. I truly do believe people are going to be hyper focused on that stuff. You've seen chains like Ondo and many others kind of building out their RWA stuff. And there's a reason behind that, right? The market is huge and it's open. It's the wild, wild west all over again. So that was all I had in terms of a presentation. I'd love to hear any questions or anything like that about the products, about what we're doing, anything you guys have.
So first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. That was very insightful. So many products, tools, solutions that you guys have developed along the years. So thank you very much for all your contributions to the ecosystem. And I actually do have a question. When you mentioned that for one of the products that you're launching there, that you want to do like it is very seamless for new users like your mom could use as well, that would add like the login to the interface, like not through a wallet, but through like email address and so on. So are you using any customized solution that you guys developed, or are you using like the Mesh.js or so on? What are the tools that are behind it?
So we actually built our competitive, like we're technically competitors with Mesh, right? In a lot of different ways. Like I said, our API's primary tool is the transaction builder, and that's a great question, by the way. But we're using the wallet that I talked about that was funded through Catalyst Fund 14. It's called Hodei Wallet, right? Cloud wallet. Hodei is Spanish for cloud, I think. Pretty sure. But the whole point is to be able to allow users to use their phone, right? To use their Face ID, all the things that people are really familiar with, to create the wallet and to sign with the wallet. So the most powerful part that we see about Hodday is that it still kind of keeps a lot of the Web3 essence, but it just makes it very easy for people, right? So when you get on there, make a wallet with Hodday, and you can see right here, right? Let me connect wallet. So you can see right here, Hodday, right? So pairing. So if you download the Hodday app on your phone, all you have to do is type this in, and then your wallets are paired. So anytime you go to sign like let's just say you go and you go to buy this, right? It's going to prompt you directly on your phone for a Face ID, and you just sign the transaction and bought the asset, right? It's about as seamless as it can get. And like I said, it kind of turns your wallet into a ledger to a large extent. And I'm going to be honest, Apple has really good security. So it's not perfect, right? And it's very centralized, but it's pretty good in my opinion. So we really kind of leaned into that and wanted to make it as easy as possible for people. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you.
Let me see. I'll pull up the Catalyst proposal.
It's a really nice product. It installs in any system, any site, any environment in a few minutes and works out the box. It is a great wallet product.
Yeah, I'd give a full tutorial, but probably would have to show you guys my phone and things like that, and it wouldn't work on here. I'm trying to find the Catalyst stuff because they changed the website name. There we go. I'll find it and I'll link it in the chat. But it's 100% about just adding SIP13 to WayUp. There we go. Got it. And I think we did a pretty good job in there of explaining the benefits of it and why it's important. Again, it's really a tough one because one of the things that they're looking for in Catalyst now is like, okay, well, how many clients, and how many transactions is this going to do? And I totally understand that, right? And I think it's an essential part that Catalyst should do looking forward. But one thing that makes like these platforms great is that it's an open, it's an open platform for anybody, right? So by adding SIP 113, we just open up the possibilities for people to actually get them listed and start trading them. Currently, if you want to do that, and I've talked to, I won't name them, but I've talked to a person at CF about this, and apparently everybody who's trying to do RWAs on Cardano is just building their own marketplace. Where's the cohesion? You know what I mean? Where's the central marketplace for RWAs? Like most people who like to shop, they don't go to localized websites. They go into Amazon, right? They go onto eBay. They go onto things like that. They don't necessarily go to bodega websites, right? So I think it's an extremely important feature for WayUp to be able to have that. And again, whether we have Catalyst funding or not, it's still on our roadmap. So it's something that we'll have. And then, each page will have it. Each company, each RWA will have its own customized page, all that fun stuff that every other NFT project has. Because at the end of the day, they are basically just NFTs. So we don't like the word NFT when it comes to RWAs. And I totally understand that. So transforming WayUp from an NFT marketplace to a digital asset marketplace is a big goal of ours to finish out the year, right? We think it's going to add a lot of value to Cardano as a whole. We're the replacement for JPEG Store. There's nobody that's come and tried to take our seat, right? Maybe they will. I hope they do, right? I like competition, but we're thinking of the future. We're not going to stay stagnant, and we're not going to just, rest on our loins, right? Or whatever the saying is. I think I got that right. Did I? Close. Laurels. Bang. Anyways, pulled that one out of thin air. But yeah, I'm actually really excited for Catalyst. I think they did a great job reforming the process, going through it. As somebody who's applied multiple times, it was so much easier. Oh my gosh, it was so much easier. And it actually asked very straightforward questions, and everything was super clear and coherent. So kudos to, I know you guys were involved in that process. So kudos to Danny and his team, and kudos to CF for kind of formalizing it and making it feel more robust. I talk with Danny a lot, so I gave him a little bit of feedback. We were also the first ones to experience a bug on the new platform where it wiped out my entire submission, and I had to redo the whole thing from scratch after I was done. So that sucked, but we got it done. And thanks to Danny for that. I know it was not you. Well, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's us, man. That's what we're trying to do, is just build the future out. We're always trying to do new things. We're always trying to experiment, but while keeping ourselves grounded in reality. You know what I mean? And looking forward to the future of blockchain. Like, we really do think that RWAs are going to be super powerful. And like I said, SIP 113 goes well beyond just NFTs and RWAs. Like when we talked about the ticketing app and things like that, when we talk about needing to freeze assets, like that doesn't just come with RWAs, right? That comes with a lot of other things that people are going to want to build on blockchain. So we're just looking forward to the next era of Cardano. We've obviously seen a very serious shift in the tone from back in 2020, where it was the wild, wild west. It's starting to kind of get its foundation built and really feel like it's taken a step in the right direction, to me at least, right? I see a lot of people talking about compliance. I really like what Draper's doing. We're applying for Draper, so hopefully we can get into that. And they've reached out to us, which is that's new. You know what I mean? It's not very often you have people like kind of pushing you to do things in this space. It's always like, just build it and they'll come. And these people are messaging us, emailing us like, we need you guys at the Draper program. And that feels really good. Well, no wonder then. But yeah, PB will be hopefully be in San Francisco, or me, one of the two of us we're definitely applying for that. So we see a lot of value in that. And, it's really cool. It's a really cool thing. And we've seen a lot with alpha growth and kind of everything else. Like Cardano's taking a serious tone. And I really like that, as an NFT guy, as I have probably arguably still, I never sold anything. I have the most probably top 10 NFTs on Cardano. I have over 5,000. You know what I mean? I've invested in everybody in this ecosystem. And I'm really happy to see that, we've kind of weeded out some of the nonsense and we're focusing on real business. I think it's really a good step forward.
I don't know where we're going to go, if it's going to be Singapore or over to Draper. So at the same time.
Are they at the same time?
Divide and conquer.
We'll flip a coin.
Just have to get the weekend off from Draper to fly over to Singapore.
I know somebody who can make that happen, probably.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, Cash and PB. Good to see you. Thank you for taking the time and presenting to us, letting us know what's going on with you right now. And it's amazing to see. And I was thinking about the work you're doing out there with the Web2 companies. As you were saying that first you have to build trust, for example. You mentioned that in terms of RWA projects, compliance is an important part. What else does help you to onboard Web2 companies. So what are the biggest USPs they're reacting to right now in your line of work?
For us, it's building them a Web 2 product, right? Or advancing their Web 2 product first. Like I said, we don't ever force Web 3 on anybody, right? It's never worked, right? If you just go straight into Web 3, you'll lose them right at the front door. Like I'll take Blom, for example, right? It's the industrial paint company. We built that. The tool that we built them has nothing to do with Web 3. There's no Web 3 in it at all. But we're a software development company, right? We can build anything. And if anything, blockchain is the hardest thing to build on. Building these old legacy tools, it's super easy for us. It's UI, UX, and a backend. It's very simple, right? And a database. So building that tool for them successfully has enhanced that relationship to a level where they're now comfortable hearing our pitches about Web3, right? It's like I said earlier, it's a bit of a Trojan horse effort where you have to build them a really good tool that solves a problem for them now, not later, not some wishful thinking thing. Like we solved the real problem for them. We've increased their KPIs. We've reduced the time that it takes to train a salesman on their tools and offerings. And we've increased their productivity, right? The time to quote went from about 2 hours to we're talking about like 30 minutes now. So we've actually saved them a ton of time, and they know that, and they're very appreciative of it. And one of the craziest things is how easy it is to impress kind of these people, because they're so used to just doing things the hard way. Like I said, they had Excel spreadsheets. Everybody was doing it different. Every single quote they output looked completely different. They had typos. They had all kinds of stuff. PB, what's up?
Oh, nothing. You were going on that one. I was just thinking about the next point I'm going to make when you're done.
Yeah. So again, solving a problem for them that had nothing to do with Web3 allows us to then talk about Web3. And the same thing happened with Sellout. So
Sellout's exactly where I was going to go with this, because if you look at a client that's super jazzed and wanted to build something, they proactively outreach to us to build something specifically in Web3. And we had, through our relationships over the past year, a good line of sight for funding and a good way to make all of this work. We had $1 million lined up on the other side of that project once we had funding on this side to make that one go through, scale it, and launch it. So you're asking kind of what's needed. We needed buy-in and support from the founding side too, to like get those Web2 clients to really kick and latch in. Because there's a trust barrier, and there's all of this like, oh, you have to deal with the scam. You have to deal with the bullshit of, oh, this crypto, we don't want to deal with that, or the taxes are hard, or any of those things. You have to get past all of that with the Web 2 stuff. So once you're finally past that, you can have the conversation around, hey, you should make this investment. It's going to cost some serious money to be able to do. So from that point, if you get a Web 2 client to that point, you have to have full support on the other side and full excitement on the other side to welcome those people with open arms, or they will walk right then and there. The project won't be able to come to fruition. You won't be able to get that thing done, because at that point, if they feel like, oh, this thing that I was already nervous about at any point, if it proves to be what I thought it was, I'm out and it's no longer viable for me. So that's one thing where I think that there could be a lot more cohesion, especially supporting groups like us who take time and effort and put ourselves on the line to go out and make these relationships happen. To not have support is really challenging to get anything done. So I know that that's not like, there wasn't a intentional no support for any of this as things kind of played out with Catalyst last year, but we had a really good opportunity and a really kind of shoe-in opportunity to bring this thing to fruition that didn't happen. And talk about like a real product and a real project and opportunity that was going to drive serious volume on Cardano. That didn't happen because of that. So I think that like that part would be fantastic from a support part. It's a bigger issue, but that's what's really needed, is that cohesion between the two.
And just to add to that, because that's a super valid point, is that it's not just about funding. Like we're very open. Like if you can't tell that from this call, like I'm willing to take risks with the ecosystem. I'm willing to work with the ecosystem to change the proposal, to make it make more sense. But there's simply no feedback loops in governance. I don't want to dive too deep into it, right? But we did all the qualifications for Catalyst Fund 14 enterprise category with Sellout, right? And we got there and it got canceled. You know what I mean? We hit the revenue requirements. We hit everything we were supposed to do. We did our side of what we were supposed to do. And then that got canceled. So what did we do next? Natural progression is go to the Treasury, right? Everybody else is going direct to the Treasury. But, you know, there's a lot of layers to that, but it's a stressful process. It literally lost us the client. Like, I think people don't really understand that. Like, we spent 12 months curating this client, that was fully interested in building his entire product, transitioning it from Web 2 to Web 3.
On Cardano.
Rather than having a thoughtful conversation with like true thought leaders, it's, well, you know, this doesn't make sense because the loan is in USD, but the return is in USD, and we're giving you like, there's no willingness to work with the D-reps weren't like, it just, the whole process scared them away. And now they're never going to come back, most likely, to Cardano. It's truly a shame because it made total sense to be on Cardano. And we beat this guy down for a year saying, hey, okay, we're going to get funded through Catalyst. Like, we're going to do everything, use all of our social equity and everything. I went all out for our treasury proposal and for Catalyst. And I thought I had the clout to get it done, and I was proven wrong. So again, that's, you know, is that me or is that the ecosystem or was it the proposal? I think it's the process. Like, it doesn't really welcome changing and adhering things to make sense for everybody, right? And 6 months later, endless infighting, and you don't get to change the proposal, and you get all this feedback that you never even get to adjust to. So for me, the whole thing needs an overhaul. And teams like us, we just, and I don't mean to get on a soapbox here, I promise, but teams like us, we just don't simply have the patience to wait around for people to figure it out, right? So I'm very grateful that things like Draper, who actually have a true path, and things like Alpha Growth got funded. Because to me, that is like, okay, now I can work directly with those people, explain the opportunity, and they're either going to like it or not like it, but we'll have the chance to make it work. Whereas I have to argue with 700 different people on Twitter every day. It beat us down. Like, it's taken us 3 months mentally to recover from the treasury process and get back in the game. It was a hard process, and I'll never put my team through that again. So,
yeah, we'll never do that again, ever. Yeah. Very bad process.
I think next year we'll see a lot of positive changes to the treasury process and all that stuff. So I'm very hopeful, but I'm also extremely grateful that things like I said, Draper and Alpha Growth exist. So we can actually just take the opportunities to the people who truly do understand it and are willing to take some risks, right? Because all of this stuff is a risk at the end of the day.
And yes, so this brings us to the end of the session today. So happy building. Thank you again for all your contributions. Thank you everybody that has joined today. And I see you next Friday in the next DevOps Hours. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye and take care.